Hey, we were just here like 15 minutes ago. Welcome to the 74th edition of Before the Battle. I'm Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. Joining me as always, Jed Meshew of MMA Fighting, the award-winning MMA Fighting, and Wes Riddle of MMAsoccer.com. Considering the fact both of you were doing well 2 hours ago, I would imagine that hasn't changed.
I mean, I'm a little more tired, but we Gucci.
And Wes?
Yeah, same boat. I didn't had nothing else to add. I'm pretty exhausted, but whatever.
Wes is clearly doing much worse than I am. I had a nap right beforehand, so I'm still feeling frosty.
I'm sagging. I'm slacking.
Wes is just done. Energy.
I'm so tired.
Personality. Yeah. This is gonna be fun because 213 we lost Robbie Lawler and Cowboy Cerrone. That sucks.
Yeah, fuck you. We were just talking about this before we went on air as we were about to go live, and I maintain that this is like the best weekend of fights we've had. I'm really excited about this weekend. I think this is the best card. And Nick was like, "Nah, 211. If you put Lawler Cerrone back on this, unquestionably the best fight card. If Donald Cerrone didn't get whatever he had,
yeah, you're right.
214. Look, it's short lived. 214 is going to be the best card of the year. That card's fucking fire.
Before Lawler Cerrone, I was saying this was the better card. And I guess that was also before Woodley.
If this still had Lawler Cerrone on it, then yes, this is the better card. But 214.
In other words, Lawler Cerrone is the best fight ever made in mankind.
I mean, it's a great fight, but 214 has 3 title fights on it. Manuel Ozdemir, which is like a very relevant light heavyweight fight. Lawler Cerrone is the balls. Lamas Jason Knight is going to be the balls. Duho Choi versus Andre Fili is going to be.
That's not happening.
Is that off now? Oh, that's right. Andre Fili died, isn't it?
No, Choi got hurt.
Oh, Choi. I thought Andre Fili got hurt.
Nope.
Oh, well, that sucks. That just ruined my whole life then. I mean, it didn't. This card's still amazing. If Aljo Barral happens at the 140 catchweight, that's a great fight. John McDessie and Sage Northcutt get to have a karate battle.
And Morcano Ortega is actually a good fight.
Dude, the whole fight card's good. I don't know who Adam Wizarek is taking on Dmitry Smolyakov, but I mean, every card's gonna have the very bottom is gonna be a little bit lesser, but like Brian Ortega and Renato Moicano, that's a fucking baller fight. 214 is awesome. I can't wait for this fight card. But 213 is, in my opinion, the best card of the year so far.
And so with that, let's dive right into UFC 213. Main event is the women's bantamweight title fight between Amanda the Lioness Nunes and Valentina Bullet Shevchenko. We'll get to that and so much more later on. But first, we'll start out on the UFC Fight Pass early prelims. The first fight of the night, I don't know anything about. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they look like because UFC doesn't have the pictures up yet. I know that Trevin Gillis is 9-0. James Bogdanovich is 8-1. Neither have much knockout wins. There seem to be sub guys. Jed, talk me through. Do you know anything?
Wow. I'm very disappointed in you for apparently not taking this very seriously and doing hours of tape study like I know Wes did, and I certainly did. I actually did do a little bit of tape study on these fellas. For like Trevin Giles, it wasn't that hard. Dude competed in RFA and Legacy, and then most recently at the merged LFA 3 in like February this year. As far as Bogdanovich, that's his name, right? I think Bogdanovich is how one says it. He was a little harder to find. He fought once in Bellator, a very quick submission over Matt Paul, who is an Eddie Bravo like 10th Planet guy. And so it was interesting because it was like, okay, Matt Paul's the sub guy, and Bogdanovich is supposed to kind of keep this on the feet and piece him up. But I mean, Bogdanovich really most of his career has been submissions, and he fought his way through kind of some interesting like bad positions with Matt Paul. Matt Paul got like a Dead Orchard hand grips set on him on that like underhook thing. and had like a weird head scissor at one point, but he fought all the way through, ended up taking the back and got under the chin and had a hella squeeze on him. As far as this fight goes, I'm gonna pick Trevin Giles, mainly because he seems like a much better athlete. Like I said, Bakovic is pretty crafty on the ground, and I don't love Trevin Giles in general. I think he's a little small, which is kind of the big thing that is giving me pause here. Bakovic can be a substantially bigger dude in the cage, and if he can get it to the man, I think he should be able to win those kind of exchanges on the ground. But Giles he's very loose. That's like the first thing I noticed about him. He is extremely confident in the cage. Lets his hands go. I don't love a lot of his decision making, and he leads with his chin a lot. I don't know that Bakovic is gonna test that, or that's gonna be a problem against Bakovic here. I'm just picking Giles by virtue of being a better athlete here. And I mean, he has a lot of finishes, but not over high level competition really. And Bakovic looked crafty on the ground to me. I think he'll be able to survive going to the floor and getting submitted. And I don't really think Giles is going to piece him up too bad on the feet. I think he's just going to win the rounds. So Trevin Giles by decision is my pick.
Wes, who do you like in this fight? Do you know anything about it? And I guess just say a name.
Yeah, I did absolutely no study for this fight.
Just because fucking embarrassment.
It was something I didn't really pay attention to. I didn't really care too much. But then again, I actually just for the first time got on Pick'em, and I didn't even know this fight was announced until like 5 minutes before we started the show. For that reason, I'm going to be picking Trevin Giles for the reason that more people are picking Trevin Giles on UFC Pick'em. And
a tried and true strategy.
I'm going to hope that those let's see. Let me check real quick. 1 second. Those 67%. Dude, this
fight was supposed to have Garbrandt Dillashaw too. Fuck, 213 was supposed to be baller.
So they would have had 3 title fights. That would have been awesome. That sucks that it took a beating like that, but
had Garbrandt Dillashaw not fallen off, I don't know that they would have put Romero Whitaker title fight here. But yeah, like this card was
they
awesome.
Wouldn't have. But
yeah, they wouldn't have. But sorry to interrupt you there. I was just looking
it's
at
all good.
Apology.
I'm taking Giles.
We got Giles Bonovich instead of Garbrandt Dillashaw. I can't complain about that.
It's true. 2 dudes who probably shouldn't be in the UFC versus one of the 2 best bantamweight fights makeable right now. Honestly, probably the best bantamweight fight you can make right now.
Yep. All right, Wes. Wasn't going so well with your analysis.
No,
Giles Bonovich.
I got Giles.
Yeah, so do I. Let's move on. We got next another fight where two guys that don't, their faces aren't there yet. How much do we know? I honestly know a little bit about both guys. Cody Stamann, the Spartan, Tyrion Ware, Flash, 13-1 versus 17-5. Stamann, a sizable favorite here. Stamann's a wrestler. Ware is a striker. Ware doesn't have great takedown defense, I don't think. Gets submitted a little bit. Most of his losses are by sub. Stamann, a bit more well-rounded. Wrestler's mentality. Jed, do you have anything to add? And who do you got in this?
I thought when you were trying to be like, 2 black screens for the UFC thing, I thought you were gonna be like 2 black guys, and I was so shocked. I was like, you really don't know a goddamn thing about Cody Stamann, do you? That dude's the whitest motherfucker on the planet. Cody Stamann honestly reminds me of like Uriah Faber, both in that like flowy California way that he's got going on his hair and like his body type and sort of everything about his whole game. He's a way better athlete than Tyrion Ware is. And I think that's enough. Like watching his tape, I thought, okay, Stamann belongs here. Like these are the types of guys that like very clearly should make the jump to the UFC. Tyrion Ware, to his credit, he's only really lost to great guys. I mean, not like, okay, maybe not great guys, but like he lost to Leandro Higo, just almost fought for a Bellator title. Did that whole missing weight thing, a little bit of a problem there. And then his other losses are to Luke Sanders, one of the better prospects in the UFC at this moment in time, despite his recent sort of come from behind loss, and Joe Soto, who, man, Joe Soto's career is just an interesting venture. Joe Soto's a flyweight dude. Tyron Ware was now competing at featherweight for this fight. And that's another interesting wrinkle here. Both men have competed at bantamweight. Tyron Ware, I feel like, is naturally a bantamweight and a big size bantamweight. I think Stamen's going to be the bigger guy. I think he's a more athletic guy. I think he's faster. I think he's been showing remarkable improvement. I think he can wrestle here. If he, even if he doesn't feel the need to wrestle, I think he can win the striking exchanges by virtue of a little more pop in his hands, a more focused game plan. I think he's going to run roughshod here. There's a reason he is, I assume, a big favorite. I don't know. I'm actually not looking at the
like 300-ish.
Yeah, there's a reason he's that big a favorite. There's a reason he is one of the most expensive people on DraftKings. I think he belongs here. I'm not saying Tyron Ware doesn't, but I think the jury's out on whether he belongs in the UFC. I think Cody Stamann does, and he is going to show his class. Cody Stamann all the way to the bank.
Wes, anything else to add? And who do you got in this 145-pound newcomer bout?
I checked a little bit out of both guys, and I was a little bit more impressed with Cody. I like his striking game, and I like his ground game. He looks for quite a bit of takedowns, and it's pretty good when he gets on top. And
good entries, too.
Yeah, good entries. Cody Stamann seems like a well-rounded athlete with a lot of potential. And Jed, said it, these two, I feel like both could do some moves, make some moves, at least in the featherweight division. They seem like two great additions, but I think Stamann's got a little bit of an edge in this one just with his athleticism. So I'm going to take Cody in this one. I haven't picked by decision, but I think a finish could be likely.
Yeah, I like Cody Stamann here as well. I like him probably by decision, but as Wes said, a finish is possible. He's the better wrestler. He is a wrestler. He has the better ground skills than Tyron Ware. Ware is mostly a stand-up guy, and that's that. Grappler / wrestler versus striker. That's kind of the matchup here. And I think the wrestler prevails. I think he comes out on top. He has, the experience is close, but both guys have fought decent guys. Whereas, as Jed said, has fought tough guys. Joe Soto, a few others. Stamann has only tasted defeat once. Kind of interesting. Ware has been in the L column 5 times. I just think Stamann finds the takedowns. That's really key here. I think he gets the takedowns. I think he's able to grind Tyron Ware out. If this stays standing, I think Ware has the advantage, but Stamann is a bit more athletic. He's a bit quicker. Just overall the better fighter. I like him by decision, as I said, but a ground and pound TKO or a submission isn't out of the realm of possibilities as well. Next up, we got the feature Fight Pass early prelim. Rob Font taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade, a bantamweight battle. One that could actually be really fun. Jed, do you like Font, the sizable favorite, or do you think the Brazilian Douglas Silva de Andrade pulls off the upset?
I think this is going to be a really fun fight, man. This has all the makings of a banger. Rob Font is, traditionally known as a knockout artist because he can thump dudes up proper. Like, dude has power in his mitts. And, when he's fighting people that aren't John Lineker, who has, at this point, already established himself as having one of the 5 best chins in MMA history and could make a run at just having the best chin we've ever seen pound for pound in MMA. Like, Rob Font puts his knuckles on you, you fold. And on the other end of it, Douglas Silva Andrade's not no wilting flower either, man. Dude hits pretty hard. Kicks very hard, works low kicks very effectively. Really good takedown defense. I don't envision this going hitting the mats. It's just going to be a standing affair. I do think Font has more power, and I think Font has more volume, and that doesn't add up to success for Douglas Silva de Andrade, but I think it will be fun while it lasts. I don't know. We've never seen Andrade get finished. Rob Font has the type of power that he can, bust somebody up, basically anybody up, really. So I could see a finish here. And in fact, I guess I will just predict one just because it'll make it more fun later. Well, thank that. That was fun for my ears and for your ears, listener, I'm sure.
I apologize.
Professional over here with his busted ass nightstand or whatever. But yeah, so the end of the day, I'm picking Rob Font, late KO, but this fight should be very fun until the end.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but the last time we did before the battle, we were breaking down Bellator and NYC. Wes had already left, and
you were
about 20
breaking
minutes
down your mic stand because you are not a professional.
Yes, sir. I did tell you. So there you go. So now, warranty helped. Replacement parts on the way. Hasn't come yet. So my microphone is currently leaning up against the Kleenex box. That is my microphone stand.
Wow.
Fantastic.
A little behind the scene actions for you guys.
Well, I can show you. Or actually, I probably shouldn't.
Let's not do that.
Wes, Rob Font. Oh, real quick. Either one of you recall what Douglas Andrade's gas tank looked like? That's one thing I'm a bit curious. I forget, his last fight against Henry Brones was fun. It was late TKO. Do we remember if he got tired at all?
I don't think he got too tired.
Yeah, nothing noticeably that I can recall.
All right, that's good because he's a big, muscular bandweight. So, he's a guy. Just if you look at him without knowing who he is, you'd think this guy's gonna gas. But
he's also a really big underdog. That's probably too long of a line. I mean, I'm picking him to lose.
What's the odds because I saw Font not huge of a
Font's at minus 340. Yeah,
I think that changed. I want to say I saw him at 145. Maybe, yeah, I think I did.
I'll look at the line history here and see, but that seems minus 3. It says he opened at minus 215. So, and that feels much more right to me. But people have bet Rob Font down. Like I said, I'm picking him to win, but almost 350 seems long.
All right. Anyways, Wes, Rob Font, or Douglas De Silva Andrade? Who do you got here?
I remember when Rob Font turned freaking George Roop into a spaghetti noodle. Back when that fight happened, it was just one of the weirdest knockouts, but at the time, it showed that Rob Font had a lot of potential when it came to the UFC. But he's only 3-1 and in the UFC. That loss being to John Lineker, and his first fight came back in 2014, and it looks like that was in July 5th. So actually yesterday, back in 2014. So he hasn't been really the most active. However, we did see him 3 times compete. It looks like also in 2014, he had a couple injuries. Was supposed to fight Chris Beal and also Mitch Gagnon 2 different times. So both of those fights didn't fall through. But I like Rob Font on this one. I have been really impressed with him in the striking game. I thought that they threw him a little bit too early into a fight with John Lineker, in which he pretty much held his own for the entire fight and was able to put a couple shots on him. He's a pretty powerful striker. I think that he has the ability to piece up maybe Douglas De Silva just a couple times in the fight and pull out a decision victory. Douglas De Silva or Silva de Andrade, he's not I wouldn't say he's a bad fighter, but I feel like that sometimes, just looking at his record a little bit, I wouldn't say it's padded, but he's fought a lot of fighters that don't really have a record on Tapology. But he does. I mean, then again, he is a very impressive athlete. He was able to get a pretty impressive knockout in his last one, and shows good conditioning. But I like Rob Font in this one. I think he's just a little bit tougher. Jed, you mentioned he's a little bit more powerful, and I think Font's going to be the more technical and calculated fighter to get the job done.
Yeah, I like Rob Font here as well. I think he's ranked number 15 for a good reason. Douglas Silva de Andrade has a very good record, but as Wes sort of said, maybe a little padded. Some of those fights down in Brazil and in other places, not North America, sometimes not the greatest competition, and sometimes you can make a record look a bit better than it really should. And that could be the case. Maybe it's not. But either way, Rob Font has more tools in the tools bag as far as striking goes, and that's where this fight is going to play. He has a bit of kicks. He's a boxer. Overall, a good striker. Silva Andrade is probably a bit more powerful, although Font more or less is a knockout artist as well. This is going to be a really banging fight. This is going to be a fun fight. It should be back and forth, but I think Font's going to be one step ahead at all times. He's the more precise. He's more volume, more accurate, more crisp. Again, better striker. Silva Andrade, more so power shots, looking for the knockout. Font, not always throwing that overhand right or whatever, looking for the knockout. A bit of a more calculated fighter. So I like Rob Font by decision.
See, this is that bullshit, though, guys, because neither of you did any damn research for these early fights. Here I am like a jackass putting in the time, trying to get the edges I need to beat you in picks, and then you fuckers just go pick the same ones I did. It's bullshit, and I'm not here for it. Not here.
Hey, things are gonna probably get more interesting as we move on. I'm thinking Romero Whitaker perhaps is interesting. Maybe Verdum Overeem, Brown Olynyk. Yeah, things are gonna heat up here on Before the Battle. Maybe not. Maybe now that you say it, now I'm just might as well go copy every single one of your picks. I'm not gonna think about what I've thought about as far as picks go. I'm just gonna listen to what you say and literally say what you say.
If you want to go 12-0, you should just copy my picks. That's all I'm saying.
Vice versa, my friend. Look who's been on top for the past couple of months. All right, moving on. Belal Muhammad, remember the name, taking on Jordan Mean. Actually, pretty, intriguing welterweight matchup. I'm a bit worried about Mean just because he's a guy who, I don't know, it's like he wants to win, but then he doesn't show up. That's kind of the story with Jordan Mean, I think. Belal Muhammad has been doing really well. Jed, who do you got here? What are your thoughts on this fight? Kicking off the FS1 prelims ahead of the pay-per-view main card. Belal Muhammad, Jordan Mean, who's your pick?
It's one of those fights where my head and my gut are telling me different things, and it's tough for me to kind of decide which one to go with here. My head just says that like Jordan Mean is just a better fighter than Belal Muhammad, but I can't tell. Like, I think that might just be thinking of who Jordan Mean was many, many years ago when he was this hot shit prospect coming up through Strikeforce and fighting Tyron Woodley, losing a split decision to Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce and then coming to the UFC and had all this hype around him until Matt Brown beat the hell out of him. And then, just sort of has fallen off. He had that extended break. He retired because he had retired, right? I'm not making that up, right? He actually retired.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then came back off the retirement and his retirement was extremely short-lived. Let's be serious. But Thiago lost it. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, the Thiago Alves and the Emil Weber Meek fight. And it's like you said, it's sort of hard to see where his head's at when people retire and then come back. It's definitely strange, and Belal Muhammad doesn't have that question around him. Certainly, like he wants to be in there, he wants to be fighting, but he's just not nearly as skilled as Jordan Mean, and so it becomes a question of like how I'm trying to think how this fight plays out, and Muhammad is an active wrestler. He's just an active fighter. He shoots a lot of takedowns, a lot of volume on the feet, not like super astonishing in one particular area, but he's there. He's going to come, he's going to work hard every fight. And in a lot of ways, it just makes me want to be like, one guy wants it and the other one doesn't. I know it's a really generic, simplified way to break down a fight, but it's hard for me to kind of get past that. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, this fight's going to predominantly play out on the feet. I don't really think Belal Muhammad can functionally take down Jordan Mean. And on the feet, like Mean has so much more depth to his boxing game, like so much more depth to his striking that Muhammad can have more volume, but Mean controls range. He has layers. He has layers to his defense. Got excellent head movement. Works behind a crisp jab. Like it's hard.
It could look like the Alan Jouban and Belal Muhammad fight.
It's like that's the thing. In my head, that's how I think it should look. But then it's just hard for me to reconcile that with the Jordan Meehan that we've, sort of, I won't say seen recently since he's barely been fighting lately, but,
against Emil Meek.
Yeah, exactly. Against Emil Meek, where he shot 3 takedowns, or I don't remember, 4 or 5. He wrestled a bunch in that fight. And the whole thing was just fucking weird. He lost to Thiago Alves. But my recollection of that is that before he lost to Thiggy, he was winning, and then and so, like, that's the thing. If you put Bilal Muhammad in with Thiago Alves, I know that Thiago Alves is kind of on a decline that we generally have asserted, but I think he'd probably chews up Bilal Muhammad's legs and stuff. And so, like, if Jordan Meehan was competitive there, I'm going with my head. I do this every time. Every single time I pick my head, and every single time I'm wrong. My gut is always right, and I've never learned. It's why Max Holloway knocked out Jose fucking Aldo, because I can't ever not pick my head, because it makes all the logical sense in the world. And I'm going to be an idiot and do it again, and I'm going to pick Jordan Meehan, and he's going to come out and look lackluster, and Bilal Muhammad's going to get it by virtue of wanting to win more, and I'm going to feel like an asshole. And I want you all to remind me of this the next time I say, well, it's a head versus gut pick, and I'm not sure which one, and be like, Jed, take your fucking gut, you're an idiot. So Jordan Meehan by decision.
Well said. Jordan Meehan, Bilal Muhammad at welterweight, Wesley Riddle. Who is your pick? Gut or head pick in this one?
I guess kind of both.
How does that work?
Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed Bilal Muhammad. I think you guys know that. I've always enjoyed his personality. I think he's a great person.
One of the sneaky best athlete. Twitter followers as far as MMA fighter goes. Bilal Muhammad has an excellent MMA Twitter game.
You're free. He also has a weird Instagram game, because just like 4 hours ago, I get some notifications on my phone, and I look down, and I kid you not, I'm not joking, it's Bilal Muhammad liking 3 or 4 of my pictures. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're supposed to be prepping for this fight, not scrolling through my Instagram feed. And they're like pictures that I've had from like a while ago. So I was like, all right, buddy. Like,
so that should be an instant Jordan Meehan pick, right?
No, because I've always liked Bilal. No,
he's a lawyer, so I'm for him.
I like both of them. I wish I would have followed UFC and just mixed martial arts in general a little sooner, so I could have followed Meehan back when he was doing some pretty dang things back in the day. But unfortunately, I picked it up when he was getting past Mike Pyle in a fight that he was able to win pretty quick. But then, and even I think the first fight I saw Jordan Meehan in, I think he lost, and it was not to Woodley. So it was to Matt Brown.
Matt Brown. Dude, before that, Jordan Meehan was like a hot shit dude in the UFC. Like, people were like, dude, this guy is going to be awesome. And then Matt Brown ate his whole fucking cookies. But
it wasn't he up in that one too?
I honestly don't recall the fight. I just remember Matt Brown having that like run of 8 wins where he kept beating the hell out of people wildly favored over him. And it was just awesome.
And now it's sad because Matt Brown is, well, not on an 8-fight win streak.
Yeah, Matt Brown's old and was not. Matt Brown had a way better career than anybody would have ever projected. So I love Matt Brown. Fucks with him hard.
I'm gonna be picking Bilal Muhammad, and also we just haven't really seen a lot of Meehan recently, and we haven't seen Meehan have a lot of success, and that's just because his last fight was against Meek, and before that it was a fight that he was up, but then ended up getting clipped a couple of times and lost pretty quick in the second round to Thiago Alves. I like Muhammad's kind of evolution in mixed martial arts. He is a pretty crafty wrestler with a continuously improving striking game. Pretty technical boxer as well. I'm not too sure if Meehan at this point in his career is going to be able to get it done. I've got Bilal by decision, but could definitely be a fight that goes either way.
Yeah, I'm going Bilal Muhammad. I like what Jed said about just him wanting it more, him being aggressive, his head being there, where Jordan Meehan, I don't really know what he wants, whether it's to win, to lose, to not be there, to be there. I have no idea. He's already retired. He's come back. So he's kind of question marks. And he's not performing that well, Came back, lost to Emil Meek. Emil Meek seems to be a good fighter. That was his debut. I mean, That's a fight Jordan Mein could have won, and probably Jordan Mein from Strikeforce would have won. So question marks, and he's kind of going down. Bilal Muhammad has surprised. I pick him when he loses, and I pick against him when he wins. So I'm picking Bilal Muhammad, which means bet your house on Jordan Mein, and which probably means Jed is going to get this one right. But, Mein is the crisper striker, but Bilal mixes it up. He's a bit craftier. His boxing is getting a lot better. I'm worried about the range. Let me just look at the stats here. I'm thinking Mein has the
pretty. I think they're pretty even.
Oh yeah, the height. I would have thought, because Bilal, as far as his reach and height, he's fairly short, or just from how I think of him. But no, that's not really the case. Mein only has 1 inch of height on him and 1 inch of reach, so that's really meaningless. So that's good as far as my Muhammad pick. Yeah, I mean, Muhammad wants this. Mein, again, I don't know. Mein's good at not, underperforming. Just kind of red flags with Jordan Mein all around. The young gun, the Canadian himself. Bilal Muhammad's the pick. I'm kind of confident. I mean, I'm not, betting the house on Bilal Muhammad, but he's turned out, he's turning into a pretty good fighter. He's all around a good wrestler, good striker. I like him to take home a decision victory here against Jordan Mein. Next up, we got Thiago Santos Moreta taking on Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. Pretty interesting middleweight battle, and obviously a clash of styles. A big heavy striker versus a grappler. Jed, you like the grappler in Gerald Meerschaert or the banger in Thiago Santos?
This is a fun fight, tricky fight to call for me. Well, me and Wes were talking about it during our little break. I'm very tempted to pick Meerschaert here because I think he's way better on the ground. I don't think Thiago Santos, like we saw in Thiago Santos's those losses to Mousasi and Spicely before he rebounded with that Marshman win. He basically just got hustled on the floor. At the same time, like losing to Gegard Mousasi, that's not a bad thing. And like his losses are all very defensible. Like he's lost to Vicente Luque on the regional circuit. Vicente Luque obviously made his way moved on up in the world as it were. Been in the UFC for a while now. I had a good string of wins going. Granted, he's a welterweight, but same concept. Cesar Ferreira, Uriah Hall, Gegard Mousasi, and Eric Spicely. Those are all very defensible losses. But we have it appears that the ground is a very weak point for him. My concern here is that Meerschaert is not like a wonderful takedown artist. He's been pulling guard a lot. And while that's an effective strategy for a lot of guys, I don't want to completely knock it. It is a way different thing for me to feel confident that a guy is going to be able to get a tie-up, pull guard, and engage an offensive kind of game off his back than a guy can hit a trip from a clinch and work on top. Because you got to think Thiago Santos is prepared to not spend any time on the floor if he can possibly help it. And he's a good defender of takedowns in general. So, and on the feet, I think Thiago Santos is lightning quick with a lot of power. And those kicks are just going to fuck Gerald Meerschaert up all day. To me, the difference here is Meerschaert's kind of slow of foot, a little bit plodding, very deliberate, I guess. And I think that Santos is just a better athlete, going to be able to light him up on the feet and avoid any ground exchanges for the most part. Meerschaert's not going to be able to take him down. He's going to have to pull guard, and I like Thiago Santos' ability to kind of negate that as much as possible. So the pick for me is Thiago Santos by late first round, early second round TKO KO.
All right, in West, Thiago Santos or Gerald Meerschaert, who do you got?
Yeah, I was not too sure about this one either, and I'm still not really confident in my pick. I'm actually going to go on the other end. I've got Gerald Meerschaert picked, and after hearing Jed, you break it down a little bit, I'm tempted to switch it, but I'm going to stick with my gut. It's just exactly what you said. The fact that Gerald Meerschaert likes to pull guard kind of concerns me because I feel like Santos for all we know, if he falls into it, he could fall into an easy trap because Mershard is very good off his back, and that's one thing that I've kind of envisioned happening. But then again, if Maheta is ready for that, he can definitely keep this on the feet and definitely win it standing. Santos's game, he's going to want to stay on the feet most of the fight, but if it gets to a point where they may engage in some kind of clinch battle, I think Merchant might be able to win it. Not sure about his takedown offensive abilities, but I feel like maybe defensive, if he's able to pull that guard, he can pull up some kind of submission. But I'm just going to stick with what I initially thought, and I have Merchant picked by a second-round submission.
Yeah, I'm going with the slight underdog here as well, Gerald Mershart. This is simply striker versus grappler, as I said off the top. I typically have been very high on Thiago Santos. I picked him in a lot of fights. I usually decent at calling his fights. I mean, I obviously saw Gegard Mousasi having his way with him, but the Eric Spicely fight surprised everybody. But that was a really eye-opening one. That's where we really saw that his ground game could be used some more. Barring, granted, Eric Spicely is a very good grappler, but so is Gerald Mershart. Very different grapplers. Spicely a bit more smooth. More of a. I hate to compare him to Louis Smolka, but he's not just about control. Whereas Gerald Mershart get on top of you, sink in something, control, get into full mount, so to speak. Just a generic grappler, not as smooth and kind of plodding as Jed said on the feet. So if this stays standing at all, Thiago Santos is going to knock him out. That's just kind of a foregone conclusion as far as I'm concerned. But this is all about where the fight takes place. I say Gerald Mershart gets Thiago Santos down early. I think he's able to control Thiago Santos. I think Santos gets into a position where we saw against Eric Spicely, where he's like, I don't know what to do. Please help me. I'm not, I'm lost. Gerald Mershart tap out. Within 10 minutes, I'll say round one, although if it goes to round two, won't be surprised. But Gerald Mershart by submission, fairly early on, is the pick. But this is one, if you're going to bet, basically I would do, again, I'm not a betting master, but I would say hedge, Santos knockout, Mershart submission, and one of those are going to come true. All right, moving on. We got a welterweight title, not title fight, but
it's a welterweight title fight.
I would hope not. I'm looking forward to Tyron Woodley and
David. Like an LFA title fight.
Yeah, perhaps. We got Chad Laprise and Brian Camozzi. Camozzi was supposed to fight Alan Jouban. Laprise is in for Jouban, who pulled out with, I believe, some sort of injury. I'm a little surprised to see Laprise at like minus 500. I don't know why that's the case, because Laprise, he's good, but it's also Chad Laprise. He's not that good. Jed, walking through the fight, Chad Laprise, Brian Camozzi at welterweight. Who's the pick?
Jouban broke his foot, I believe, which is why he pulled out of the fight. And talk about going down, man. Alan Jouban is, that's a great fight between guys that have, been quietly putting together resumes in the division, and Brian Camozzi ain't that. I mean, look, like you said, Chad Laprise is Chad Laprise, but at the same time, he's got wins over good guys. Jesus, I can't believe I just said that. Beat the previously unbeaten Olivier Aubin-Mercier in his UFC debut. I think he was a little bit of an underdog there. Yadinis Sedano, Brian Barberena, like these are Thibaut Gauthier. These are guys who I have respect for as fighters, and these are good wins. I don't take much away from to getting busted up by Francisco Trinaldo and losing to Ross Pearson. I have a vague recollection that I thought Ross Pearson did not win that fight, but I could be wrong. I won't pretend like I remember that fight all that well. So like putting together a decent little run here, and on the other end of it, Brian Camozzi is best known for having a brother who got submitted by Jacare twice in a club in like 4 minutes. He's an RFA guy who had losses on the regional scene to very unspectacular fighters. made his UFC debut against Randy Brown and got stopped. I'm not surprised that Laprise is as big a favorite. I think he's there's a reason for it. The one thing I will say, Brian Camozzi is super tall welterweight. He's like 6'3", and he has really ridiculously long arms. He's 6'2", looking at it, and he has a 7-inch reach advantage over Chad Laprise, which is pretty ridiculous. And that might make it interesting. But like Chad Laprise is a much, much better athlete, much more diverse striking attack, cuts angles very well, can work behind a jab, has excellent kicking game, and I think that will be a good weapon for him here. Camozzi needs to stay as far out as possible and work his leg kicks, probably his best weapon, and that can maybe kind of stunt some of the movement for Laprise, and keep him at a distance where he can be very far out. But I think, and look, this might just be me ascribing onto Brian Camozzi more traits of his brother Chris, but dude, when his brother gets matched up against a guy who's a better athlete, it's a very easy, okay, pick the guy who's the better athlete. And I think that just holds true here. I think Chad Laprise is a better athlete, more explosive, more dynamic, and he's going to, that will carry the day here. Give me Chad Laprise. He shouldn't be that big a favorite over anybody at minus 500 or whatever, but he's a justifiable favorite in general.
Wes, do you like Brian Camozzi or the big favorite, Chad Laprise?
I like Chad Laprise in this one. I'm still kind of high on him, not as probably being like a top 10 fighter, but I do enjoy his skill set. I think he's pretty entertaining to watch. I honestly think that this is just a little bit of a push for Camozzi. I think that jumping from Randy Brown to Chad Laprise is kind of like an upgrade for a guy that just lost to Randy Brown. I feel like Chad Laprise has the abilities to beat Randy Brown in a fight. And so I kind of wonder why they made this matchup. I don't think it's really good, knowing the fact that Chad Laprise is a good and technical striker, while Randy Brown, who was known somewhat for his grappling abilities too, was able to knock out Brian Camozzi in the second round of their fight. So for those kind of reasons alone, I'm a little more confident in Chad Laprise. It's been a while, I think, since we saw him last. Actually, December 2016. Oh, no, that was the other fight. August of 2016 was his last fight. And his last victory before that was in April of 2015 over Brian Barberena. But I think Brian Barberena could beat Brian Camozzi. Brian Barberena is still a really tough athlete, but I do like Chad Laprise in this one, and I have him picked by a second-round knockout. I think he'll be able to stop Brian Camozzi as well.
I don't really know why, but I'm leaning towards Brian Camozzi. And, before the odds came out, I was thinking Camozzi, he's bigger, Laprise on short notice. I'm not that high on Laprise. Camozzi's new. Him having the Camozzi name, not great. But ultimately, if we're being honest, he's underrated in a sense simply because he's the brother Chris Camozzi.
Holy shit, the fight was originally Joban Camozzi?
Yes.
I thought the fight was Joban Laprise. Wow, no. Brian Camozzi got fucked. I mean, he was going to lose to Alan Joban, but damn. I was way wrong. Damn, continue. Sorry.
Well, I mean, this is a better matchup for Camozzi. Joban would have beat Camozzi quite easily, where I honestly think, I'm picking Camozzi against Laprise.
Fair. Still a bad matchup, but I was just stunned. I assumed it was Laprise, Joban. Did not realize this at all.
Nope. All right. All right. So, I mean, Camozzi, he's 57% of his wins by, he's more of a grappler than a striker. But Laprise, is this his first fight at welterweight? I want to say it is, because his last fight, I'm pretty sure, was at lightweight. Although it does feel like Laprise has announced his move up like a long time ago, and then a fight was canceled, something like that. But Camozzi is a lot bigger. The reach, 7 inches, that's, and 4 inches of height. That has to come into play somehow. Laprise is the better boxer, and he hits a bit harder, but Camozzi maybe could use his leg kicks. I don't know. This is tough. Maybe he takes Laprise. This is a tough fight. This is, as far as I'm concerned, has split decision written all over it. Really could go either way. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe Laprise just starches him. Maybe Camozzi lives up to the expectations of being the brother of Chris Camozzi. Who the hell knows? I'm just going to end there and say Brian Camozzi by decision. I don't know. Moving on, Travis Brown, Oleksiy Oleinik at heavyweight. This is a fight that really shouldn't be happening just because Travis Brown, it's kind of crazy how not that long ago, 3 years ago, he was a fight away from a title shot. He was the next big thing. And then he lost to Verdum, and then he lost to many others. And now he's fighting Oleksiy Oleinik. It's a fight that's happening, and we got to talk about it. Jed, you like Hopper Brown, Mr. Rousey, or the Boa Constrictor?
Dude, I'm excited to talk about this fight. I think this fight's going to be fun because I think Travis Brown's going to do some violent shit to Oleksiy Oleinik, which, could not be fun depending on your view on Travis Brown as a human being, which I won't moralize here, but I feel you. But yeah, like this fight is super obvious to me. What are the odds on this? Because dude, Travis Brown is an under, like Travis Brown is minus 210, minus 220. That is way under what Travis Brown should be. I know that the dude is on like a 3-fight or 4-fight losing streak at this point. What is it? It's 3. It's because Velasquez, Verdum, Derek Lewis. No, it's 4 because Arlovsky, right? Arlovsky, Velasquez, Verdum, Lewis.
No, you had Mitrione in between Arlovsky and.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But yeah, so like I know he's 1-4 in his last 5, not a great record, but like also that's the very top of the heavyweight division that he lost to, and his losses are all very justifiable losses in general. He was beating Derek Lewis, like he had Derek Lewis hurt, and then Derek Lewis went and did Derek Lewis things to him. But like Oleksiy Oleinik can't win this fight. Like, how's he win the fight? That's my question for all of you here. Because
he knocks him out like he knocked out Jared Rosholt.
One, I did not realize this. That is still, I can't understand how that happened in general. Jared Rosholt is a much better fighter than Oleksiy Oleinik. Nobody likes Jared Rosholt, but he's definitely a better fighter than Oleksiy Oleinik. Oleksiy Oleinik is just like, I'm here for him. I totally want him in the UFC because he's super weird. He has like 10 Ezekiels on his record or something absurd like that. He currently has the front runner for submission of the year with his bottom mount Ezekiel choke over Victor Pesta, which is both an indictment of submission of the year and also awesome because it's like super fun that the thing like that happened, but holy shit, Victor Pesta, what are you even doing, guy? To have something like that happen to you. But like, how's he gonna get Travis to the ground? Like, he can't win on the feet against Travis Brown. Don't bring that bullshit here. And how's he Travis Brown has an excellent takedown defense. It's why people were interested in a Brown Velasquez fight before we actually saw it and realized, oh, Kane will just put the wood to him. Like, oh, he is an incredible takedown defense. He's got those vicious elbows. Oleinik isn't even a great wrestler in general. He is plodding and slow, and Hapa is an infinitely better athlete, and he's going to beat the ever-loving hell out of Oleksiy Oleinik. I say this, and now, of course, Oleinik's going to fucking bulldog choke him or some ridiculous bullshit, and I'll be here for it. It'd be awesome if it happens. Travis Brown, violent KO in the first.
I remember when somebody told me that Travis Brown was going to knock out Cain Velasquez. It happened on the show. It was my good friend, Best Fight Picks himself, Daniel Levy. That was not one of his best fight picks, but wow. that was a good time.
Danny, you're better than that. I mean, look, it wasn't a ridiculous stance at the time, but like, yeah, that's wrong.
Wes, Oleksiy Oleinik, Travis Brown. Does Travis Brown go as far as down as possible and get tapped out by Oleksiy Oleinik by Ezekiel choke? Or does Travis Brown do what Travis Brown should do?
Poor Oleksiy is going to get battered. I don't know how else to add it because, Jed, you pretty much covered it all. It's just Travis Brown. This is an awful stylistic matchup for Oleinik just because Oleinik is a submission guy. Travis Brown is great at avoiding submissions and also has superb takedown defense, is also the better striker, and still has a pretty crafty technique. I think Travis Brown will be able to get the job done pretty easily. Yes, he's been knocked out a couple times in recent fights, but then again, they're still not that bad of fighters to lose to. While Alexei Olenek has lost to some no names by knockout, and they did happen back in the day, but still they got knocked out. I have to favor Travis Brown. Nothing else to add, and he's going to get a first round knockout pretty easily, I think, in this one.
Yeah, we're gonna see Travis Brown before getting battered by Verdum, Cain Velasquez, Andre Arlovsky, Derek Lewis, and everyone else he's gotten battered by. Travis Brown is going to unleash hell on Alexei Olenek. We're going to see a lot of elbows. We're going to see a lot of power shots. Alexei Olenek, he's old, he's slow, he's plodding. If he magically takes down Brown, that actually will be kind of interesting to watch, and I'm intrigued to see how Brown would deal with that. I suspect we won't find out what happens if that happens, just because Brown knocks him out really quick. Travis Brown by knockout in the first round. Not much else to say. Next up, kicking off the 5-fight pay-per-view main card of UFC 213, we got a lightweight title. I think it's just me wanting all these title fights. I think I want every champion on this card. We got former champion Anthony Pettis in his return to lightweight, taking on Jim Miller, the vet of all vets. Jed, do you like Pettis, or does Miller pull the upset off?
This is a little baby version of the head gut thing here. I'm picking Anthony Pettis because I can't in good conscience not do it. I am very prepared and frankly think, again, my gut says that Jim Miller's going to win this fight. And I'm picking with my head because, dude, it was not long ago that Anthony Pettis was this unbelievable talent. And we were talking about, like, fuck, who can beat him at lightweight? Like, who's gonna beat him at lightweight now? This is the run. Now we're finally gonna get a guy to lord over the lightweight division and, and establish dominance for a sustained period of time.
And Conor McGregor said no.
Conor McGregor didn't have shit to do with Anthony Pettis saying no. Rafael dos Anjos had a lot to do with it by beating the fuck out of him. And look, like there's a legitimate world where Anthony Pettis is 0-5 in his last 5 outings. He very clearly lost to Rafael dos Anjos. I thought he very clearly beat Eddie Alvarez and got a bullshit, split decision loss there because Eddie held his hips against the cage a lot. Edson Barbosa, who, we're going to talk about fighters I've been championing before other people for a while. I think Edson Barbosa may very well be the best lightweight on the planet at this moment in time. And I've predicted him to get the belt next year. So I don't take much from losing. Edson Barbosa is like the worst stylistic matchup maybe imaginable for Anthony Pettis beyond, I guess, Khabib. Charles Oliveira, who was probably on his way to winning that fight until getting choked out. Because he's ahead in the 3rd round before getting tapped. And then, losing to Max Holloway, no shame in that game. But yeah, like Charles Oliveira is very instructive as for what Anthony Pettis is. He's a dude without process, but with unbelievable dynamism, where he might just be losing, like sheerly because he's dumb or doing stupid things or getting backed up against the cage infinitely because he still hasn't learned footwork. Despite, being a champion, he still doesn't know basic footwork. But then he's just like, oh shit, I'm going to do something wildly athletic and fuck your whole world up. and like he won the title and was an awesome, awesome guy doing just that. And it's so hard for me to look at Jim Miller and be like, dude, you weren't in the same fucking zip code of athleticism as Anthony Pettis. At the same time, what Jim Miller is, he's the exact opposite. He's wildly consistent. He is a friggin' metronome in there. And he looks like he's improving still, despite being 50 or however the fuck old he is, despite being a top 15 lightweight for 20 years, which is the deepest, most difficult division in the sport. He has maintained at the very peak of competition for at least 10 years at this point. It's got to be, which is an incredibly impressive feat. He still seems to be getting better. Dustin Poirier is on a tear. One of the top ranked guys in the division. I thought he was about to beat Eddie Alvarez, and I think when they rematch, he will beat Eddie Alvarez. And he only lost a majority decision to Poirier. Like he's here for it. He beat Thiago Alves, who's a very excellent welterweight who, made the cut to almost lightweight. It's just, it's so weird because he lost to Diego Sanchez and Diego's super washed, but like, I can't in good conscience. If 3 years ago you told me Jim Miller was going to beat Anthony Pettis, I'd have laughed at you like a fucking idiot. And I can't get that out of my head. I just can't. Like, he's way, way better. So like his peaks are much higher than Jim Miller's peaks. And that likely won't even play a distance. Jim Miller's going to back him against the cage and hold his hips and take him down. But I can't do it. I just can't. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to lose a pick here because I'm going to pick Anthony Pettis, but Showtime is going to do Showtime shit. Showtime kick forever. That's it.
Wes, Jim Miller, Anthony Pettis, it feels closer than it really should be. It's going to be closer than it really should be. But ultimately, the Showtime get back on the winning track. What was his last fight? It was a loss, right? Yeah, to Max Holloway. How can I forget? Or does Jim Miller pull off the unimaginable upset?
Speaking of mind versus gut, I'm going to do what Jed does and go with my mind, and that's by picking Anthony Pettis, just because at one point, and I probably would still say maybe he is debatable, is one of my favorite athletes of all time. Pettis was one of the first fighters I watched when I started watching mixed martial arts, and I still love the dude today. I think he has a great personality. I love his work ethic, and I think he's just a very determined guy. Even though sometimes he doesn't get the win, he still is very determined to keep on trying and just has no quit, and he's always game to fight. So that's one thing I love about Pettis. I'm going to be picking him. I haven't picked by decision, but Jim Miller definitely has the abilities to grapple and take his way down and just pretty much control Pettis in clinch battles. And also, if Miller gets on top, I think he can win in that game too. So, and Miller's a decent striker and loves to push forward, and Pettis loves to back up. And if Pettis can't land any good counters or throw up a good kick, Miller could definitely get the job done. But I'm going to stick with Pettis because I love the dude.
This is going to be, as I said off the top, it's probably going to be close, but it really shouldn't be. Anthony Pettis should wipe the floor with Jim Miller, But it's also Anthony Pettis in 2017. That's not the guy who beat Benson Henderson for the title. It's not the guy who did the Showtime kick. It's not the guy who beat up Donald Cerrone or Joe Lozon or RDA changed his life. And then Edson Barboza didn't help, and Max Holloway certainly didn't help, and the cut to 145 certainly didn't help. I'm glad Pettis is back at 155. That's his home. He should never have even tried to cut down to 145. Never mind go down and fail to make the weight in an interim title fight last December. But Jim Miller, this is a guy who he's the blue collar guy. He's the vet of all vets. He somehow has stayed somewhat relevant. He's not in the rankings, and he hasn't been for a while, but he's always been on the cusp of them. He's always been sort of one win away from the rankings. He's been a top 20 to top 25 guy for, as Jed said, many, many, many years, getting close to a decade probably. I was surprised by his loss to Dustin Poirier. And by that, I mean, I thought Poirier was going to starch Jim Miller. I thought Poirier was going to put him out. I thought Jim Miller had no chance of winning. I just thought Poirier was going to knock him out quick. And Jim Miller put up a fight. He stood and banged with Poirier for 3 rounds. And he didn't even look that bad. I mean, it was a majority decision. I think Poirier won, on paper. Poirier score-wise, he did, and he should have won pretty clearly. I think it might have been even 30-27. But Miller made it close in a way. He made the rounds close. He landed on Poirier. And I see the same thing happening. I think this is going to be a very similar fight to the Poirier fight. Miller, in this fight, because Pettis, his sort of flaw and his hole has, especially as of late, has been, defending the takedowns, getting grinded out. We saw that in his title loss to RJ, and then we've seen that since. Miller could do the same. He's a very good submission guy, but he's getting better on the feet. I think he might be able to get Pettis up against the fence a little bit, but mostly this is going to be a kickboxing fight in which Anthony Pettis wins. Pettis, even though he's gone down a lot, he's still the better striker. He still has a bit of power. He still is, a very precise guy on the feet. And Jim Miller, he's crafty, but he just doesn't have enough tools in the tool bag to outstrike a guy like Anthony Pettis, or as we saw earlier this year, like a guy like Dustin Poirier. It's going to be very similar to the Poirier fight with maybe a bit more grappling in favor of Jim Miller. I still don't see Jim Miller coming up on top, but I hate to say this because it sounds dumb, and you guys say it all the time, but this is a head and gut pick. My head says Pettis all day. My gut says Miller might be able to pull it off. I'm going with my head, sticking with Showtime Pettis, but if Miller wins, I won't be shocked just because Pettis has been going down, down, down for the past couple of years. Moving on, we got a pivotal heavyweight matchup between former UFC champion Fabricio Verdum and one of the most decorated heavyweights on the planet in history, Alistair the Ream Overeem. I don't know why it says he's fighting out of England, and maybe that's accurate, but I don't even know where he's training out of. I don't think it's Jackson Wink anymore, but who knows? Anyways, Jed, do you like Verdum, the Brazilian, or do you think the Ream gets it done in this long-awaited, not really, heavyweight trilogy fight?
So I've been working on a theory on how to pick heavyweight fights, and it's only you could maybe apply it to other divisions, but I think I'm onto something. How you pick heavyweight fights, especially in this current day and age, is this. You look at the two guys and you say, who's the tougher motherfucker? And that's it. You throw out skill, you throw out preparation and game plans, and you just go, who's the harder man? If this was prison, who gets the last pudding cup? That's it. There's no technical breakdown, just who's fucking harder, who is built for this shit more. And I think it's very clear in this particular fight which one of those two men is built for this shit more. And it's Fabricio Verdum. That dude is he's a crazy person. And it didn't work out for him recently when he ran charging headfirst at Stipe Miocic. But look, I came to this conclusion in part because of Stipe Miocic, because I think I perennially underrate him, but I just don't I look at Stipe and think, you're not super good as a fighter, but what you are is fucking rawhide tough. And that's it. He's rawhide tough in a division that really just kind of measures how rawhide tough you are. And he's the king of the heap because he's tougher than all the other fuckers right now. And nobody would ever say that Alistair Overeem is the toughest man in the world or in the division. He is a wilting flower. He's a glass cannon. He's a better athlete here. Dude, he's 38 and he's still an incredible athlete. And so if he pops off some super violent shit and just hits Verdum in the face, I won't be all the way stunned, but I think that it's just as likely that he does some super violent shit. And Verdum just looks at him and is like, hey dude, what else you got? And then Overeem just throws in the towel. Cause look, Overeem should have finished Stipe Miocic. He just should have. He had Miocic on the cusp of it. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have gone for the guillotine. He has a fantastic guillotine. But he shouldn't have gone for the guillotine. No, he has a fantastic guillotine. I'm not going to judge that in-fight decision because it may well have been correct. I can't speak to that. But what I can say is he had Miocic on the ropes, and literally the second Miocic was just nah, dude, I'm not giving up. That was it. that was it. And Miocic then asked him the question, "Are you tough enough to be in here?" And he was like, "Nope, I ain't. I'm not as tough as you." And just fold it up like a lawn chair. That's it. Heavyweight is just who's the harder man. Unless Fabricio's chin is completely shot because Miocic, jaw jacked him with the fierceness, which I don't think it is. I mean, we saw him come out and beat the hell out of Travis Brown again. Fabricio doesn't have, neither of these guys have too much longer in the division. They're both old, but give me the tougher man every time. Fabricio Verdum is going to eat Overeem's cookies up, and I think he's going to get a second round stoppage.
By knockout or submission?
Well, I was saying that, and I think he's going to get probably TKO. I think he's going to Overeem's going to throw his Sunday best, and Fabricio is going to work through it, and then Overeem's going to kind of wilt a la Anthony Johnson, and Fabricio is going to put hands on him sort of up against the fence, and it just finishes from there with strikes.
All right, Wes Riddle, Fabricio Verdum, the former UFC champ. His last fight was a decision over Travis Brown. Prior to that, he got knocked out. He got deaded by the current champ, Stipe Miocic. Alistair Overeem, last finish to Mark Hunt. Before that, he got deaded as well by Stipe Miocic. Who do you like in this important heavyweight fight?
I forgot the Hunt fight happened.
Yep.
I kind of forgot too.
And Jed, sorry, Wes, but to go against your theory, Mark Hunt's a tough guy, and he got deaded by Overeem. So Mark
Hunt is absolutely a tough guy. Mark Hunt was not exactly in a state where he really wanted to be in there at that fight.
He wanted to be in the courtroom with Brock Lesnar and Dana White.
Exactly. His mind was not. He was not built for that shit at that particular moment. I will never speak ill of Mark Hunt, one of the toughest motherfuckers on the planet, but I don't think he was really all mentally there for that fight.
All right, now I will allow you to speak, Wes.
I appreciate it. No, I agree. I forgot about Overeem's last loss to Mark Hunt.
Win.
And hit him with that knee, dog.
You're tired. I know you beat, or he beat.
No, I was just saying before we did the breakdown, or before you guys even talked, I just completely forgot about it. I was thinking his last loss was to Stipe, but Overeem still has some decent wins. If you look at some of his wins in his recent ones, besides the fight with Stipe and a fight where he was able to drop Stipe at a moment, still was able to pull off a victory over Junior. A pretty impressive victory over Andrei Arlovski, who, of course, has kind of fallen off. And then some earlier wins back until, I guess I remember when he fell off after he lost to Van Rothwell. And Overeem's chin isn't there. Fabricio Verdum's striking has evolved quite a bit. And Verdum is still a pretty decent athlete. If you think about just the fight with Stipe in that fight, he kind of rushed in and got knocked out, but with a pretty unbelievable counter. But Fabricio is very tough. Overeem is very tough. This is the rematch, the trilogy, I guess, if you want to call it. I'm going to go I didn't really have a pick coming in. I'm going to go Overeem. I'm going to pick a decision just because I feel like we could see something very similar to what happened in their second fight, and that was Verdum, or at least Overeem landing a lot of the better strikes, and Verdum trying to take it to the mat but being unable to, maybe not flopping as much as he did, but Overeem just being the smarter fighter with a little bit more calculation and just pulling off a decision, maybe not being the most entertaining fight we've ever seen, but just a pretty smart and decent performance from Alistair.
Fabricio Verdum has been content mostly as of late in the past year or two. He's been content standing up. We haven't seen a ton of his ground game. The last notable, time when we saw it was, of course, his choke over Cain Velasquez just over 2 years ago. But, other than that, he's evolved his striking a lot, which is good. He's more well-rounded, but, he doesn't use his bread and butter as much as maybe he should, and especially in this matchup, because Alistair Overeem is the better striker. He has a lot more tools. He has kicks. His And just overall, he's a better striker, and he has a lot of power behind his. He has a lot of pop behind his punch. Not to say Verdum is a bad striker. He's improved. We saw the knee against Mark Hunt 3 or so years back. That was a vicious KO. I think the biggest or the more an obvious time
Cain
of when.
Velasquez.
What's that?
He boxed up Cain Velasquez.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was obviously not sea-level Cain, but yeah, fair enough. Verdum, I think the biggest time or the most obvious of Verdum's improvements on the feet was the first Travis Brown fight. That's when we really saw, holy crap, Fabricio Verdum's actually a really good striker. Since getting knocked out to Stipe Miocic, though, I haven't liked what I've seen. Obviously, running into Stipe Miocic glove wasn't a good game plan, but I don't think he looked that good in the second Charles Brown fight. I really don't. I think he looked sloppy. I think he looked slow. He didn't look like a former champ. He didn't look like a top contender. He looked good, but Travis Brown, you got to remember, he's gone down as well. That wasn't the Travis Brown in the first fight either. I think Verdum's going down. I think Alistair Overeem, I'm sure he's getting old. I've never liked his game of when he gets hit once, covering up against the fence. Look at the Roy Nelson fight. Scary stuff. Really annoying as a guy, who picks, if you're picking over and just really, really stupid in cage decisions by just, putting your back to the fence and letting the guy tee off on you. Most of the time he survives that, so I guess whatever, but not totally just whatever. His chin isn't good. I'm not sure if Verdum's chin is there anymore. I'm a little worried, of course, after the Stipe fight. I think Overeem catches him. I think Overeem puts Verdum away. I like Alistair Overeem in this fight. I like him by knockout. If Verdum finishes him, I won't be surprised because if Ben Roth will knock him out. If anybody knocks out Overeem, I won't be surprised. Overeem's chin is done, but Verdum's might be too. I just hope this is more entertaining than the first two fights. I think it will be. I got Overeem by knockout. Let's say second round. He likes to warm up a little bit usually. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with. Overeem second round TKO. Mostly because he's a better striker and because Verdum, I'm a little worried about just his all-around game. I think he's going down a little bit faster than we think. Moving on, I don't know and can't believe that this is next, but we have another heavyweight fight to talk about. It's not nearly as high profile as Verdum, Overeem, or even Brown Oleinik. We got Daniel Omielanchuk taking on Curtis Blades. Blades is actually a decent prospect. I think he can go far, but we're also talking about Daniel Omielanchuk, and even more hard to believe, he's number 15 in the heavyweight division. That is fantastic. Daniel Omielanchuk, the poll, or Curtis Razor Blades from the States, 7-1, 19-7-1, no contest. Who do you got here? Blades, I should add, about minus 900, maybe even minus 1,000 now.
I was going to say, I believe he's the biggest favorite of the weekend for a reason. Curtis Blades going to fight for a title one day, and that is both a true statement and an indictment of the heavyweight division in general. I think that it is almost a dead certainty that we will see Curtis Blades versus Francis Ngannou for the UFC Heavyweight Championship at some point in our lifetimes, because they're the only two prospects at heavyweight other than Derek Lewis, who just lost to a 50-year-old Mark Hunt, and then retired and then unretired. So I love Derek Lewis, but I think it's pretty safe to say Blades and Ngannou are by far the two best prospects and close to the only prospects at heavyweight. And Blades should beat the ever-loving shit out of Daniel Omielanchuk. Omielanchuk has surprised me before. I thought Timothy Johnson was going to beat him, and he did, but it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But this is a dude who his best wins are what? What's his best win? I guess, right? Yeah. I was a majority decision over Lexi Oleinik, and then he beat Georges Danho, the esteemed Georges Danho.
Georges Danho isn't as bad as what's the guy?
Chris De La Hocha?
What's that?
Chris De La Hocha?
No, I was gonna say Christian Colombo and who's
Colombo
the guy?
Dana is the best fight that's ever happened.
Joaquin Christensen.
Oh, that has happened, right? That was a draw too. That's
Yep,
unbelievable.
it was the best heavyweight fight we've ever seen. Don't you
And
dare
who's the
talk
guy
shit
got?
about Colombo George
Who's
Dana.
the guy that got starched by Anthony Hamilton in like 3 seconds?
I don't know.
He also got starched by a lot of other people, including Derek Lewis.
Oh, the Russian guy.
Yes. Good record, terrible fighter. But yeah.
Durakamov? Is that right?
What's that?
I don't remember.
No.
I don't remember.
It
Anyway,
doesn't matter.
the point here that I'm making is, so Curtis Blades will get to rematch Francis Ngannou for a title at some point. And that's his only loss at the moment. You know, losing to Francis Ngannou, no shame in that game, especially so early in his career, so young. He is not much of a striker. What he is a really good athlete with a ridiculous explosion and drive on a double leg. He is going to pick Daniel Emelianchuk up. Daniel Emelianchuk doesn't have great takedown defense. He is going to get taken down with authority, and then he's going to get the shit beat out of him over and over and over again until the bell stops or the ref jumps in. I assume the ref will jump in very early in this fight. I think we're looking at likely a second round TKO here, similar to the Cody East fight. Something like that. Takes him a little bit to get up under him and working, but I think second round stoppage is very likely the result here. Curtis Blades, book it.
All right, Wes. Curtis Blades' biggest fear of the weekend versus Daniel Omielanchuk. If you're picking Omielanchuk, you better have good reasoning.
I'm definitely not, and I think I hate to be a copycat, but I 100% agree with Jed. I personally think Curtis Blades is one of the best heavyweights in the world. I think he's got a lot of potential. I may be crazy saying that, but he is he's just a crazy athletic specimen. I don't know how else to say it. That has so much potential, and just his explosiveness, his striking abilities continue to evolve. I think he's a great athlete. I think he could definitely become a champion at some point in the UFC, as you mentioned, Jed. And I think that we'll see him ranked maybe in the or hopefully in the top 10 by the end of the year. I think maybe we'll see him get one more fight in, and he'll be able to defeat whoever it is. But I'm pretty high on Curtis Blades, to be honest. And I think that he's going to be able to get a pretty impressive victory here over a fighter who just hasn't really. He's had a weird UFC run, and I don't really remember Daniel Omielanchuk having any victories that were impressive besides a 48-second knockout over Chris De La Hocha, who I don't know where that guy is now, but he's definitely not in the UFC anymore. Curtis Blades is going to get a victory here. I have him picked by second round TKO. I think he's just going to be relentless with his takedowns and just unload some ground and pound to be able to get the finish.
All right. Yeah, Curtis Blades, easy. You know, the guy is so big, so strong. Omielanchuk, you know, kind of small for heavyweight. Not really small, but, you know, the guy's 247 pounds or whatever. But, you know, Blades is just massive. 265. I'm sure the guy cuts a little bit. The guy is younger. He is, I guess, more athletic. All his wins have been by knockout TKO. The guy is, he mauls his opponents. Go back, watch the Adam Milstead fight. Quite cringy with Milstead's injury. Warning there. Razor Blades, easy. -1,000 is steep for any heavyweight bout or any bout in general, but Blades should be the biggest favorite of the weekend, probably. Omielanchuk. The guys, I can't believe the guys are ranked in the UFC rankings. It's almost a disgrace. I mean, the guy is
heavyweight's terrible division.
I know. Yeah, Curtis Blades picks him up, throws him down, hurts him, knocks him out on the ground. Second round TKO, maybe even first 1 minute. Who knows? Curtis Blades, nonetheless, though, finishes this easily. Alrighty. Now we move on to the good stuff.
The exciting things are afoot.
Now we get on to the fight that I want to see the most, the fight everybody wants to see the most, the people's main event. The undisputed middleweight champion will be crowned. Michael Bisping has been kicked off the ladder by myself. I am saying Michael Bisping is no longer the champion. I am assuming the UFC will follow in suit. Yoel Romero versus Robert Bobby Knuckles Whitaker for the, I guess, interim middleweight title. Here we go, another interim champ, but I'm just, calling. They're the undisputed champ. That's what I'm saying, and everybody else should follow that. This is awesome. This is fantastic. This is one of the best fights all year. This is fantastic matchmaking. Yoel Romero, Robert Whitaker, Wes. Who's it gonna be?
All right. Well, I don't know where to really start, but I'm going to start with hyping up my boy Bobby Knuckles. I'm picking. I'll just give my pick right now, and I'll kind of explain why. I'm going to be going Robert Whitaker in this one, and I have a few reasons for why I think he's going to be able to get the job done. The biggest one is his. I'll start with his defensive abilities. Him and Yoel Romero both have about the same striking defense overall in their UFC careers. However, Robert Whitaker did not really have the greatest run at welterweight. He has looked fantastic after he moved up, and I think that his defense is probably that percentage is a lot higher than what it actually says on UFC's website, because he has not really been hit that much at all in any of his outings in the middleweight division. Whitaker, one of his problems though, and I'll say this too, is that he is not the best at checking leg kicks. But Yoel Romero doesn't really target when he kicks the legs too much. He likes to kick on the outside, not too much on the inside. But Romero likes to throw his kicks high, and he looks for head kicks sometimes, just kind of like a front kick that'll try to keep his opponent and back him up a little bit. But he's never landed one. What he has landed are flying knees. Now, Whitaker is very successful in regard with striking abilities with landing punches. He likes to keep the fights on the feet. He's only looked for and landed 4 takedowns in his UFC career, but predominantly he keeps it on the feet. And his best hand is his left hand, which he loves to land and look for counters to, but also lead some of the exchanges as well. So he's pretty crafty at trying to mix up his game a little bit on the feet, but he's very, very technical. In comparison to a guy like Romero, Romero sometimes gets a little bit sloppy, lunging his punches a little bit, and that's what's kind of got him some victories in his UFC career. And he, it's not that he's not calculated, it's just that he uses so much power in his strikes to try to get the knockout, and it's worked every single time. But and just an example of that came when he landed that spinning back fist in the first round against Jacare Souza. Just kind of threw it out of nowhere, hoping it would land. Luckily landed, was able to take the first, almost get a knockout, but then he went kind of reckless, a little bit too reckless, and almost lost that fight. Another thing I'll talk about Robert Whitaker, why I think he's going to be able to get the victory in this one, is in regards to his takedown defense. He rarely gets taken down. On UFC's website, it says 91%. I don't think he's, besides a moment in the Jacare fight, has been taken down at middleweight. Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero, he is also really not the most effective. Yes, he is a wrestler, but he hasn't been the most effective in his mixed martial arts career with his wrestling abilities. And I think that's because sometimes the striking plays into a factor with that too. Just gets a little bit reckless, as I mentioned. And I think Robert Whitaker is going to be able to stop those takedown attempts that Romero poses. When it comes to kind of the comparison on the feet between the strikes, I think Romero might be the heavier striker, but I think Whitaker is a lot more smarter with his approach. I think he's more technical and tight with his boxing abilities, and I think that he's going to be able to stop Yoel Romero. If we also think about some of the times, too, that they've been in fights, Romero, I can recall many more times where he's been fighting fighters who may not necessarily be strikers, but they had moments in their fights where they were able to kind of take over in a way in some of the rounds, or just be able to kind of overwhelm him early on. And Romero has been able to get some victories kind of later on in the fights, but his cardio does fall. Robert Whitaker has some of the best conditioning in the middleweight division. I think he has the ability to go a full 25 minutes no matter what happens. Romero, yes, he's been able to get those finishes late, but in a course of 5 rounds, if we see it get to a 5th round, I don't think Yoel Romero has the gas tank to make it that long. With kind of all these reasons put together, I kind of rambled a little bit, but I do think that Robert Whittaker is going to be able to get the job done. I've been picked by a 2nd-round knockout, and Bobby Knuckles will fight Michael Bisping for the title and become the middleweight champion in the UFC.
All right, Jed, Yoel Romero, Bobby Knuckles Whittaker, middleweight title on the line. Michael Bisping, go fight GSP. Go fight Anderson Silva. I don't care. Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker. Who walks away with the title?
I'm going to say, before I get into my pick, I will say I'm with you on the go fight GSP thing. I hate that fight. I thought that fight was stupid. I maintain that fight is very stupid. But at this point, now that we have a belt, a middleweight belt, I think we can just let Michael have his belt. Like, who gives a shit? We all know it's not the real belt. It is the real belt, but we all know he's not the best middleweight in the world. This is for the actual middleweight championship. And let's just have the interim, like the winner of this fight should just go on to fight
like Luke Rockhold and
no, not
Gegard.
Luke Rockhold. Yeah, Gegard. Gegard has earned the title shot. The winner of this should just fight Gegard. Let's have them fight like it should have. Luke Rockhold should have not been a dumbass. He should have not got knocked out and fucked middleweight all the hell. And we should be in the process of having fun, meaningful title fights. Instead, we have the Bisping title run, which is going to go down in history as like the 2nd most shambolic thing behind Jermaine Durandamy's title run. So because frankly, I'd way rather have Bisping fighting like Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre and doing this weird bullshit veteran, Bellator-esque fights as opposed to tying up the middleweight belt. So now we have a middleweight title. Let's just let this person fight real middleweight contenders and let Bisping go do whatever the fuck he wants to do. Who gives a shit? So now that that's said, Wes makes a lot of extremely good points. I think I agree with most of the way Wes breaks it down. Bobby Knuckles has much more volume, much better process than Yoel Romero. Incredible takedown defense. This is absolutely one of those head versus heart picks, though. And for the first time, I'm going to pick the gut because a couple of reasons. Yoel Romero is not any of the other fuckers. Yoel Romero is the best athlete that's ever competed in our sport. And despite the fact that he's 40 years old, look at that motherfucker. Did you see him at the workouts today? Holy shit. Like, unreal. I picked Robert Whittaker to knock out Jacare Souza, and I've been pretty good at honestly picking both of these guys' most recent fights. I picked Romero to knock out Chris Weidman. Like, I'm pretty on point on my picks here with these guys. I think I have a good read on them. And I thought Jacare Souza was going to lose because he has very clearly was declining athletically, and Robert Whittaker be able to take advantage of that. Yoel Romero might be 40, but that dude is a way better athlete than everybody he's stepping in the cage against. It won't surprise me if Bobby Knuckles can just put hands on him and just pile up advantages over the course of rounds and get a late stoppage. I do think Romero's gas tank issues slightly overblown. He keeps getting knockouts in the 3rd round. And they're not like Hail Marys, but they're built on an idea. The Chris Weidman knockout, which might have been the 2nd round, not the 3rd. I don't recall.
It was the 3rd.
Was it the 3rd? Yeah. Yep. The Chris Weidman knockout, like, it's easy to look at that and go, oh, well, he just did something and then it was like, bam. But that's not like, it's easy to just be like, oh, he just popped off some way athletic shit. But he'd been setting that up. Like, that was a process. He saw the Weidman was hitting entries on him, and he saw that, and then he was like, okay, now I'm going to hit this feint, and I know he's going to duck down. As soon as he does, I'm going to counter with this flying knee. And it may take him a long time, and in the time it takes him to figure out the way to attack Whittaker's attacking him, Robert Whittaker is going to be putting hands on him, and that creates a window for Robert Whittaker to win. But over the course of 5 rounds, it is very hard for me to believe that a guy who is as tactically smart situationally as Yoel Romero is at applying his offense against opponents and as dynamic and just brutal as he is, doesn't find the window to fuck him up something proper. Like, I think it is. And look, I'll also say Yoel Romero is an excellent cheater. Like, he's a great cheater. And I respect the shit out of a motherfucker that cheats because look, we're not playing. This isn't for honor or respect. These motherfuckers are fighting for money, and you cheat your ass off. Like, Michael Bisping once got really mad at me for calling him a cheater, and I meant it as a compliment because like taking advantage, take whatever edges you can get in there. Like I'm with that all day. And Romero's like ridiculous stool tactics and like everything he does, he cheats all the time, and I'm for it. I will say I don't think he cheats on steroids. I think that's a way overblown bullshit issue, but he cheats in cage all the time, and that's dope. I don't think Robert Whittaker's going to cheat in the cage. I think Robert Whittaker's too good a dude. Yoel Romero's not. Yoel Romero grab a fucking fence if he has to, or kick somebody low if he has to. He doesn't give a fuck. He's there to win. I can't get over the fact that Yoel Romero is incredibly awesome to watch. If Bobby Knuckles wins, I won't feel bad about it at all because Robert Whittaker is also very fun to watch. I think the kid is destined to hold the title at some point in time. I just don't think it's this point in time. I would pick either of these guys to tool up Michael Bisping, but I think eventually Romero's losing the fight up until the moment he wins the fight. I also actually do think he can work a wrestling game here. We don't see it nearly as much, but he's an Olympic silver medalist, and he lost the gold. Like he was the favorite in the gold medal match and lost to one of the best freestyle wrestlers ever, the younger brother of the best freestyle wrestler of all time. Like, this dude's a hyper athlete with all the skills. I think he just finds a way to get it done. Third round again. Third round, Bobby Nux gets laid out. That's the game, boys. Yoel Romero is no for gay Jesus, but he is yes for interim title belts. Romero is your new champion.
Well said. I think you said it best. Yoel Romero is going to be losing this fight until he's not. And I think that's the story of the fight. He's going to be getting outpointed by Bobby Knuckles. Bobby Knuckles can be laying them hands on him. Because go watch the first 2 rounds, Yoel Romero and Chris Weidman. Weidman didn't do a whole lot, but Romero did even little. I mean,
they were split going into the third. I recall that.
I recall having Weidman up, but maybe not. I don't know. Either way, Weidman could have been up. Either way, Romero didn't do much. But then, boom, it's over. Flying kick, or flying knee. It's going to be one of those situations, I think. My head says Robert Whittaker all day because Robert Whittaker has great takedown defense. And, Jacare got him down super momentarily. Whittaker right back to his feet, and boom, 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 Jacare's out. We could see the same thing here, and that's why I'm struggling to pick Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero, he's not as, just toe-to-toe of a strike. He's not as good of just stand there and box as we think. He's not. He's decent, but Robert Whittaker is the way crisper striker, the way better boxer, easy. And he could light Romero up. I could see that happening. But the difference between Jacare and Romero, as far as their takedown approach, Jacare obviously way more BJJ based. Get inside, put your legs in certain spots. Obviously, get underhooks, whatnot. A way more BJJ dominant. Just because he's one of the best grapplers in the sport. Yoel Romero is a lot more wrestling based, obviously, and just explode and somehow I'm on top of you sort of based. So I think Yoel Romero has a better chance of taking Robert Whittaker down simply because he explodes, when he's using his wrestling, where Jacare's takedowns are, well, A, he's not great at takedowns, but B, it's a lot more technique based and not just boom and I'm on top of you all of a sudden. So I think Romero has a better chance than Jacare to get Whittaker down, even though Whittaker still has fantastic takedown defense. On the feet, again, the reason my head says Whittaker all day is because, again, Whittaker's a great boxer. He's a great striker. But Yoel Romero, his nickname is the Soldier of God. He's essentially a Greek god. He's the best athlete we've ever seen in mixed martial arts. The guy, he goes into so many fights as a dog, and he pulls it off. The guy is spectacular. By default, I have to pick Yoel Romero. He's my pick. I'm picking him to beat Robert Whittaker. I like what Jed said. I said it off the top. It's going to be Robert Whittaker lighting him up. Maybe Romero gets him down. Mostly Whittaker beating him up on the feet. And then boom, spinning kick, flying knee, Hail Mary something. Robert Whittaker out on the canvas. Yoel Romero, new champ. I mean, it's going to be, he's losing until he's not. Yoel Romero, I don't think his gas tank's nearly as bad as some people say. It's not great. 25 minutes to, say 5th round, Yoel Romero maybe isn't going to be fantastic if it goes there. Probably won't. But if it does, yeah, maybe not. But, he has some sort of record for 3rd round knockouts. It's insane. So his gas tank isn't great. But it's not nearly as bad as some people say. He can fight in 3rd round, clearly, very well. So Yoel Romero will be losing until he's not. It's going to be something special. It's going to be something thrilling. Watch it, and it's going to be awesome. Yoel Romero, knockout in the 3rd round, new interim middleweight champion, but really the new real middleweight champion. All right, that's the people's main event. I don't really feel like talking about this fight, but I mean, we have to because it's still actually a great matchup, and people don't care about it. But it's actually.
What are you talking about? You don't feel like talking about this fight?
Well, no, just because Whittaker Romero is one of the best fights all year, and as far as good matchups go,
this is one of the best fights all year. This is one of the best fights you can make in women's mixed martial arts right now.
Yeah, but I mean, You're a hater. I'm looking forward to it more than a lot of people, but Romero Whittaker is something else. Anyways, the main event: Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, running it back, number 2 for the women's bantamweight title. The stakes are higher. Last time out, UFC 196, they're opening up a pay-per-view card, headlined by Conor McGregor. Now they're the main event, International Fight Week. Eyes are on them, and it's going to be fun. Amanda Nunes, the champ. She's defended it once. It happened to be against good old rowdy Ronda Rousey. It was a quick knockout after her quick win over Miesha Tate last summer. She's getting the hype. Taking on Valentina Shevchenko, one of the best in women's MMA as well. We'll go to Jed first. I know you've been high on Valentina Shevchenko for her entire UFC career. Are you high on her enough to say she will be the new women's bantamweight champion come Sunday morning, or does Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, retain the belt?
Well, what type of a person would I be to be backing her play through thick and thin all this time and then bail out on her right now at the moment of truth? Before I say that, I do want to point out a very important thing to note about this fight. Amanda Nunes, by my reckoning, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Amanda Nunes is only the 5th in the history of the UFC, only the 5th fighter to headline multiple million-dollar pay-per-views. It's possible Chael Sonnen did, but I don't think he did. I don't think his first one with Andy hit $1 million. I'm not 100% on that. But by my reckoning, Conor, Ronda, Brock, and George St. Pierre are the only fighters to headline multiple million-dollar pay-per-views. Amanda Nunes, obviously, UFC 200, over 1 million buys, and then the Rousey fight as well. Granted, she was not the draw for either of those things to happen, arguably, but I do think it's interesting to note that she's in unique company there. But on to the fight. Bullet Shevchenko is dope, and I'm picking her because she's dope. And, I mean, you don't really need much more than that. Valentina Shevchenko is one of the best athletes in female mixed martial arts as far as, like, a diversity of skills and talents. She is like a professional dancer and an amateur shooting champion, has this extensive kickboxing and Muay Thai background. Like, she's awesome. And I've been so high on her because, and I firmly believe this to be true, I believe she is absolutely unquestionably the best women's 125-pound fighter in the world. The UFC doesn't have the weight division. I know they're, supposedly putting it in. And when they do, depending on how this breaks out, I would be shocked if Shevchenko didn't end up getting that belt. I think to me, it's very clear that she's the best women's 120 women's flyweight in the world. And I think she is also the best women's bantamweight in the world. Like, I just do. No disrespect to Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes is a better athlete than Shevchenko by the traditional, like our traditional understanding when we say athlete. Like she's more explosive naturally and stuff like that. But Shevchenko has such an incredible depth of skill from her years of kickboxing. Um, and she's so just rawhide leather tough. We saw her last fight. A lot of people, I picked her to beat Pena. I know a lot of people didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't think it was happening the way that it did, but she hauls off and fucking taps Juliana Pena off her back. Like she is getting better every time out. She's going to be smaller here. Definitely. She doesn't cut almost any weight to make the limit as far as I'm aware. And to Nunes' credit, she has been massively improving from basically being a physical athlete and specimen to having a lot more craft, a lot more skill, a better approach technically. But I just don't think it matters. I think she's going to have her moments early. I think this, in my head, this fight looks a lot like their first fight in general. And it's very possible that Nunes can get her down, put the wood to her very hard like she did in that second round, and finish Shevchenko. But I think Shevchenko is ridiculously tough and can weather that storm. Nunes, the book on her has been that she gets tired, and I don't think she's going to be like dead after the third round, but I expect that the first round will be a bit of a feeling out process. The second round, into the second round, Nunes will start kind of putting the foot on the gas. And then it's just whether Shevchenko can get through the storm and how much it takes out of her to get through the storm. I suspect she can. She's done it once before. And then at that point, she's in the driver's seat. That third round, Nunes did nothing. She was completely done, and she was inert for the whole round. If that fight had a fourth and fifth round, I think everybody would have expected Shevchenko to get the win. I think that's just going to happen here. My big concern with Shevchenko is she doesn't always throw the most volume. She is content to let the fight come to her. And Amanda Nunes is going to bring the fucking fight to her, that's for damn sure. But I just think she has way more craft, way more skill, more technique. In the striking game in particular, I think she's a good enough takedown artist that after the first couple of times, she'll be able to stop it. I think Nunes is explosive enough to get her down early, but she still tends to shoot bad shots occasionally. She throws a lot into her shots, and Shevchenko is going to spend the whole time just going to be a process. She's going to be working, chipping away slowly, being very measured, and I think she's going to take over late. I think she's going to get a 5-round decision that gets increasingly wide as the fight goes on. Valentina Shevchenko is the best women's 125-pounder and the best women's 135-pounder, and arguably the best female mixed martial artist on the planet today. I wouldn't make that claim, but I do think she has an argument for it, especially if she wins here. Take Shevchenko to the bank, y'all.
Wes, are you awake? A and B, who walks away with the women's bantamweight title? Champ Amanda Nunes or Valentina Shevchenko?
This is definitely probably the best fight in women's mixed martial arts you can make without maybe the name Joanna or Chris Cyborg. Just because these two are unbelievable and very talented. I agree 100% with everything you said, Jed. I don't really have too much else to add just because I feel like we're going to see a pretty similar matchup in comparison to the first fight between Nunes and Shevchenko. I think Nunes is going to take that first round without a doubt, and I think probably maybe the first half of the second round, but I think Shevchenko will start to take over as the fight goes on. Nunes could definitely get an early stoppage, and I think it would come by either strikes or a rear naked choke. That's pretty much the only two ways she can get a finish, I think. But Shevchenko has never been finished before. I don't think Nunes will be able to finish her, but she definitely has the abilities to. And I think that if we get past that first round and let's say the first 8.5 minutes, I think Shevchenko is a guaranteed victory in this fight. For that reason, I have Shevchenko picked by a 4th-round TKO. I favor her in any 5-round fight against Amanda Nunes just based off the cardio comparison between the two and also just their fighting styles. And I think Shevchenko is going to become the new UFC bantamweight champion of the world.
Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko already happened. It happened. UFC 196, as I said. a lot of people saying Nunes, TKO round 1, book it, easy, done. The thing with that is that it's like, sure, Nunes has improved in the past year. I would imagine, wins over Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey certainly getting better. But there's a reason she didn't finish Valentina Shevchenko like she finished, the other two, Tate and Rousey. And maybe it's solely because she's getting better, and maybe we just, I don't see that. But it's also because Shevchenko is, a tough fighter, and she's a really good fighter, and she knows how to avoid power shots and offense, and she has good defense. She's a really good striker, Shevchenko. Go watch the Holly Holm fight. Holly Holm, former pro boxing champ, good on the feet, obviously, and Shevchenko, took her. Did really well in that fight, obviously. I think 49-46, even some judges had their scores. She's good on the mat. She's really well-rounded. We saw him against Pena. She has some submission skills as well. It's not all striking. She has a bit of wrestling. We saw that in her debut against Sarah Cotton. She's more well-rounded than Amanda Nunes as far as I'm concerned. Nunes can win by submission, but she's not a great grappler in general. The last submission win she had, I guess the Miesha Tate win was a submission, not a ground.
That was a KO. But yeah, it was a submission, but it was a KO.
Right. But, her last submission wins, that and the McMahon win, I believe, she hurt her opponent and then she gets the submission. So it's not like she goes for takedowns, advances position, sinks in, gets her hooks in, sinks in some sort of choke. It's sort of, as I said, rock your opponent, then drop down for some sort of sub. So she's not a fantastic grappler. She's not as well-rounded. She has 10 minutes to win this fight, and then it's all Shevchenko. If Nunes can, knock her out in 10 minutes, she's still the champ. If not, Shevchenko will take it. Shevchenko will become more dominant as the fight goes on. The pick here is Valentina Shevchenko. I like Valentina Shevchenko, as do you two as well. I like her to survive the early storm from Amanda Nunes, the Lioness. She gets past round 2, and it's all over. All over in 15 minutes. Shevchenko will, as Nunes is starting to get tired, Shevchenko will not get tired. Her conditioning, as far as I'm concerned, is very good. I think that's kind of clear. Much better than Nunes, anyways, I would think, unless Nunes has gotten better as far as her cardio. Shevchenko's her striking, she'll just be more effective. It's not that she's the harder puncher, but then Nunes. It's not that Nunes is so much worse of a striker. It's, Shevchenko is slightly more technical, but Nunes hits harder. But all of that will start to go away from Nunes' side as the fight goes on. So the pick is Valentina Shevchenko. I think she becomes a new champ. I think it's a decision. I think she mixes up all of her tools on the mat, on the feet, in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. I think she takes those and takes home either a 48-47 or 49-46 in unanimous decision, and new Valentina Shevchenko. There we go.
Love it.
We're gonna. Oh no! All right, episode 74. Before,
we got
UFC,
bonuses, dog.
Yeah, UFC 213. Our picks are in the books. Now let's move on to our segments, and then let's wrap this up because I know Wes is just about gone.
I got work, so let's get on it. Bonuses.
Yeah, bonuses. Let's do that. Wes, performances and fight of the night. Who do you got?
I'm gonna give. I feel like fight of the night could go to either one of the top two. I'm going to give my fight of the night to Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko. And I'm going to give my 2 performances to Valentina Shevchenko and Robert Whitaker.
All right. Jed, what about you?
I want to note first that you two were extremely close in your picks. The only difference, as far as I can, the only difference is, Wes, you picked Chad Laprise. Nick, you boldly have chosen Brian Camozzi, despite me and Wes both picking Laprise. And then Wes, you're on Bobby Nux, and Nick, you're on Yoel Romero. Whereas I disagree with y'all on quite a bit this time around. So it'll be interesting to see how that breaks down. But as far as my performances for the night, I think for the night, Nunes Shevchenko, feels boring because Wes just said it. I think it's a clear front runner for that. It's seems to be the most likely to be a back and forth affair. The odds have it the closest fight of the weekend, so it's a good choice. And you get 5 rounds. I love picking a 5-round fight for fight of the night. Performances. I think Yoel Romero is going to do some real dirty shit to Bobby Nux. So he's going to get a performance bonus for that. And I'm just going to play the odds here. I think there are a lot of other choices you could pick as far as a performance of the night bonus. Rob Font is probably a pretty good one. But I'm playing the odds. Like I said, I think it's very obvious that Travis Brown's going to beat the ever-loving shit out of that dude that he's fighting, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But
Alexei
Oleinik. I think he's beat the hell out of him. So seems viable to just expect it. Heavyweight, he's going to beat the shit out of him. It's a performance bonus, but like Verdum's a good choice. I almost picked Anthony Pettis. Like there are a lot of good choices on performance bonuses.
Alrighty, my fight of the night, kind of out of left field, but we said it earlier that it should be a fun one. Rob Font, Douglas Silva de Andrade.
Not a bad choice.
My performances will go to Yoel Romero and Curtis Blades.
All right. And then now we just have DraftKings, fellas.
Now we have DraftKings, and this long night of before the battle comes to an end. Let's start with Jed. Who are your 6 fighters on your DraftKings team?
I told you I was very excited because there are a couple of guys that I think should definitely be on your teams. I'm going to assume honor code that you guys aren't going to change your squads up now after hearing mine. But for the first guy that I was saying, wildly underrated, I think Fabricio Verdum is incredibly underrated. I know I'm the only one of the show picking him. Both of you guys are taking Alistair Overeem. He costs $7,800 right now, and like I said, I think it's very clear to me that he's going to beat Overeem. So definitely got Verdum on my team. Also, I like to pick basic sure things. We all have established that Travis Brown's going to beat the shit out of Alexei Oleinik. He's a little pricey, $8,600. He's on my squad. The new champ, Valentina Shevchenko, $8,200, actually more expensive than Amanda Nunes, which seems a little odd to me because if Nunes wins, I think most people expect her to win early, but it's not inconceivable she could win the first 3 rounds in a way and then kind of hang on. So it's weird to me that Shevchenko is more expensive, but I have her on my team, $8,200. Yoel Romero, like I said, he's going to do some dirty shit to Bobby Nux, and he's only $7,900. He's under $8,000. That's cheap. Take him on your squad. Again, Curtis Blades, the most expensive guy on the board, the biggest favorite on the board. I think he's worth every penny. He's going to get Omielanchuk out in the second round, almost guaranteed. He's going to get several takedowns, put a bunch of strikes up, get a bunch of points up. And because I do have a couple of heavy favorites mixed in here, my last spot had to be a guy to kind of make some of it work. And I'm not even unhappy with it. Gerald Meerschaert is only $7,700. I did pick Thiago Santos to win that fight, but it would not surprise me if Meerschaert was able to tie him up and get a submission. We've seen Santos be susceptible to that. And an early submission is going to be worth a lot of points. So I've got him just kind of round out my team because it was either him or Jim Miller. And while I think Miller has a less good chance to win the fight than Meerschaert does, and certainly a less good chance to get as many points as Meerschaert could if he wins.
All right, and Wes, your 6 fighters, DraftKings, who do you got?
Yeah, my team's either going to be a win or lose, either first or third.
That's usually how this works.
just because I'm picking Robert Whitaker, so I have him on my DraftKings team. I feel like either if you're picking Robert, you should put him on. If you're picking Yoel, you should put him on. So that's either going to make or break me. But I have him on my team. I also have Valentina Shevchenko. I'm very confident that she'll be able to get it done and rack up some points, especially later on. I've got Bilal Muhammad. I thought that between him and Jordan Mean, Bilal Muhammad may have a little bit better of a chance to rack up some more points just with some output. I have Travis Brown. As Jed mentioned, Travis Brown's going to maul all over Oleinik. And then my other 2 picks, I picked Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller is a pretty I did pick Anthony Pettis, but Jim Miller has the abilities to, I feel like, possibly score quite a bit of points if he keeps grappling and maybe score some takedowns in there because that's kind of a style. Then my last pick, I thought it was a pretty decent one since I ran out of cash, was Chad Laprise. I think Chad will be able to get a finish in that one. And if you can, that'll get some bonus points on there too.
Wes, can you remind, or Jed, can you remind me who your last two underdog guys were? Gerald Mershart and who?
My last one wasn't an underdog guy. It was Curtis Blades, who was the biggest favorite in the card.
Do you have two underdogs or two?
I have Yoel Romero is undercosted as against Robert Whitaker. I have so it's Whitaker, Shevchenko. I'm not looking at my team right now, but it's Whitaker, Shevchenko, Verdum, who is way
Romero,
undercosted.
not Whitaker.
Oh yeah, Shevchenko, Romero, who's undercosted, Verdum, who's way undercosted to Overeem in my opinion, Curtis Blades, enormous favorite, Mearshart, and Travis Brown.
That's actually, yeah, we have similar teams, and I like yours better, even though I'm picking Overeem. But here goes, here goes nothing. We got Yoel Romero, Valentino Shevchenko, Gerald Mershart, Curtis Blades, and where we differ, you have Brown and Verdum, and I have Overeem and Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, I like my team better too. Mainly because I have Travis Brown, and I feel very confident in Travis. Like, I built my team just saying Travis Brown and Curtis Blades are very clearly going to win early. Build everything else around that.
Yeah, while we are saying where we can find where the people can find us on social media, I'm gonna try and work Travis Brown into my team because he's gonna rack up. He should anyways.
Literally why he's on my team. I always start my teams by picking the guys I feel most confident are going to get the most points, and then building off that. And it just so happened that Verdum is very cheap and Romero is pretty cheap.
Yep. All right, episode 74 of Before the Battle in the books. Thank you guys, if anybody's watching, for sticking with us. It's kind of late. It's 2:18 here in the PEG. It's 3:18 where Jed and Wes are down in Georgia and down in Virginia. So thank you guys for watching as always. And if you watched both episodes tonight,
you're mad, man.
Don't have a life, but thank you. We do appreciate it greatly. Jed, let the people know remind them where they can find you on social media, where they can find your podcast, your writing, and anything else you have going on. Go for it.
MMAfighting.com. It's where all my writing is. On social media, you can find me Twitter at Jed K Meshew, JEDKMESHEW. Give me a follow, and I will update you with my writing every day. All of it at this point just goes to MMAfighting.com. Speaking of which, I have to go write something for my 8 a.m. deadline, so that's fun. Yeah, and I host a podcast. It's called the MMA Circus. Occasionally Nick Baldwin jumps in. Just had an interview up this week. Not our best effort. I wasn't really I kind of mailed it in this week, but you can go check that out as well. I also host another podcast, The Naked Truth, with The Naked Gambler. We were going to try and record tonight, but I still have to work, so I really doubt that happens. Probably going to record tomorrow, where we will talk all about how Valentina Shevchenko is the dopest. And that's it.
Alrighty, Wes Riddle, let the people know where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing and your non-existent podcast, and anything else you got going on.
Yeah, I don't host or am no co-host to any other podcast besides this one, so I'm living a pretty basic, boring life. But besides that, if you want to join me in my adventures,
you just go ahead. That might be worth mentioning. I don't know.
Yeah, I got a new job in real life. I can hit on that next episode, but besides
you're a bit
that,
tired. You have bigger.
I'm exhausted. Yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want to follow my even more boring life over at All That MMA. You can find some of my average typical writing over at MMAsucker.com, where I do average typical guy stuff. And besides that, I'm going to go sleep like an average dude on a Wednesday night, I think.
On an average Wednesday night. You forgot.
On an average Wednesday night, and get some typical sleep, just like any typical human would. So thanks, fellas. I'm out.
That's the way to end the show. All right, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at BloodyElbow.com. You can find my podcast I hosted with Andrew Lawrence, not Jed Meshew, despite what he may claim. It's called the MMA Circus. This past week we had Kevin Lee And Brent Primus, the new Bellator champ. Kevin Lee, of course, UFC lightweight contender. Go check it out. Episode 118 just posted on Bloody Elbow today. We're now available. We've always been on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, and Google Play. We're now on Player FM, Pocket Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Overcast, and maybe even one more. So go check it out. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it. I'm sorry if you listened to all. How long, Jed? Can you real quick, if you have it up? How long have we been going? I'm gonna say 2 hours.
I mean, we started around 11:30 and it's almost 3:30.
No. Just the second show.
I don't have any idea. I think we're closing in on 2 though.
All right. So thank you if you watched all 3.5 hours of us talking about fights. We appreciate you not having anything better to do. Thank you again. Enjoy the fight. Good night. Have a nice sleep, Wesley Riddle.
Love you guys.
Good night.